My friends saying keep it pimpin' blood, you need a Wraith. My fam starting this tradition now of being safe. My ex picking now to tell me how she want a space. She be stressed if I ain't text her every couple days. She ain't special, ain't no pressure when you run the game. Another extra in my section when I'm up at Dre's. Talk to me nicely, walk through is pricey. Till my mom's in the hills and Lil bro them icy. Jesus hand on the wheel, it feels like a vice grip. If I ain't give you the chills, I feel there's alright this, My brother wears heart on his sleeve. His only motivation now is loving his seed. We at Cuzzo graduation, manifesting our dreams. As I write the homie Lock, who should've played in the league. Man, it's hard being the vocal. The only one scoring get ball to me when I'm open. They guarded me and I'm stroking from hard and deep in the ocean. This dream take guts, heart, arteries, and devotion. Swear to God, yo, count up my bad days, combat my past ways. Cause sometimes my pride just won't leave me alone. Cause home don't even feel like how we used to feel, dog. For real, Father Time just won't leave me.
KBLA Talk 1580. Pete White is in the studio with me. Check us out on YouTube, youtube.com, KBLA 1580. Please follow and like and subscribe on all the social media platforms, KBLA 1580. It's not that we've given up on Mindful Mondays. They will return next week. Sahara Ali has some family business she needs to attend to, and we're giving her the space to do just that. I hope you're taking a deep breath. I hope you're drinking your water, especially right now with this blazing heat. You're supposed to drink half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you've got to drink 50 ounces and so on. Well, when it's hot like this, you've got to add at least another 20%. Let's take some time to look inside ourselves, to breathe, maybe do a little yoga, and make Sahara proud when she comes back next week. Pete White is the executive director of the LA Community Action Network. He also serves on a variety of boards and advisory committees relating to homelessness, organizing, and grassroots funding. And I know we're stretching your time a little bit here. We got you in studio. Got to take advantage of it while we got you here.
I always love coming here. It's like coming home when I come to KBLA, so it's all good.
That's a beautiful thing. And there's so many questions about houselessness, and it is really to me the two big crises right now is houselessness and the climate emergency. Right?
That's right.
If we have no planet, then none of us have a home.
That's right.
We all basically, toe down, right?
toe back, toe down.
Yeah. If you don't have housing and it continues to deteriorate, we have an unsustainable system. I believe that when the essential workers, the people that keep a city or a region going, cannot afford to live in that city or region, you have the type of scenario that leads to things like the French Revolution, the fall of the Roman Empire. It's not sustainable, and we're there. I feel like we're there.
I mean, Dominique, I say that a lot. Folks talk about like what defines Los Angeles and Los Angeles movement work, and to me, I'm like Los Angeles is a very contagious. It's not contagious. It's there's another word I'm looking for. So if we look in places like New York and other places, like something pops, there's hundreds of thousands of people in the streets immediately, and then everyone goes back home.
Right.
Now, you don't necessarily get that in Los Angeles. What you get in Los Angeles is when we get enough, we get enough. It's spontaneous.
Yeah.
That's the word that I was looking for. And so there's always this undercurrent, and I could feel that energy in Los Angeles that something is about to give, right?
Yeah, think 1965, think
That's
1992.
Right. 92, something's going to give.
Think 2020, when we done, we done.
And this is where I feel like even on the conversation around movement work, I think this is why we have to do the work now. So when it pops, because it will pop, there's actually a plan or ideas that have been planted before, right?
Rather than scrambling.
Yeah. Because that's what we do every time. We scramble.
We're going to go to Fahima calling us from Washington, D.C. Hi, Fahima. You're on with Pete White.
And Dominique.
Johnny and Pastor Dominique. Thank you for taking my call and greetings to your guests. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I did have the opportunity to not physically be at the 10th anniversary of BLM, but I was watching it on the stream, and it was absolutely delightful. It was so good to see Elaine Brown still on fire. My only regret is I wasn't able to get a massage and buy some of that wonderful food that was out there. I would have do if I was there in person. Just very briefly, I don't know if the LA Times accepts letters to the editor and if they'll publish them. But if they do, I would encourage Dr. Molina to write a letter to the editor, set the record straight, and not to excuse the writer, Ms. Smith, but the editor has the last word. And that the editor could very well have been responsible for that title. But if they do accept letters to the editor, I would encourage Dr. Molina to write one to set the record straight.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I think that's a great idea.
If they won't print it, maybe the Sentinel will.
That's right. That's right. And maybe, and thank you for calling from Washington, D.C., maybe another listener hears it. So if they didn't want to print a Dr. Melina Abdullah a letter to the editor, maybe someone else could get their letter printed. So there's an idea. There's a strategy. This is Black radio at its best.
All right. Exactly.
Yeah. Sante-san, I appreciate you, too. And, there were so many people out there on Saturday that we didn't even mention Elaine Brown, right?
That's right. Like
I saw Matt McGorry, Van Lathan, like a lot of people that were there. The Josephs, Deanna and Andrew Joseph III, and
folks showed up and showed out.
Yeah, a lot of folks. So that was a good point. And I love the fact, and Tavis Smiley, who's one of the MCs. I love the fact that so many of the people that were there were activists, were scholars, were really about movement. It wasn't like, oh, Rihanna's here, let's just come just to be
What's up with you and Rihanna?
I love Rihanna. I'm a Rihanna fan. She's my girl. I'm just saying.
That's right.
When I go there, I'm looking for one thing, and when I go to Black Lives Matter turns 10, I'm looking for a different thing.
That's right, 100%. I think who was there was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think the other thing, just real quickly, as I'm sitting here, and so hopefully folks are tuning in on YouTube and other platforms. When I think about KBLA, I think about a story about Charlotta Bass and the role of black press in Los Angeles. Charlotta Bass, California Eagle, there was a black woman being evicted from her home. The sheriffs came to her home to evict her, to make her homeless, right? Many decades ago. Charlotta Bass and that infrastructure summoned, and they say the story goes, 100 black women who went and put all of this black woman's stuff back in her house in the face of sheriffs in Los Angeles, California. Why am I telling this story? The power of the black press and the power of black journalism and our ability. We have the innate ability to talk about our stories in ways that no one must be supported. I just want to say that. That wasn't just a KBLA plug, but it was a KBLA plug about the role and the importance of supporting black media.
Well, I appreciate that. I think we are really fortunate in Los Angeles that we have, the Wave and the LA Watts Times and the LA Focus and the Sentinel. Like, we have a vibrant and robust black press. We have 2 black-owned radio stations. Only one of them is doing talk, news and information all the time. But we have 2. That's more than most places have. Right. But it's almost like you have to be a Tavis Smiley or a Stevie Wonder, like this, almost like a superhero to make that happen, right? We always talk about Bill Cosby and his ill-fated plans to get a hold of NBC. There's a reason it's not easy.
That's right.
To make it happen, and so I appreciate the support, and I do think we have a unique role to play. I also empathize with Erica Smith because I've been at NBC, literally. I've been in those mainstream spaces, and sometimes what you pitch and what you're able to put out are 2 different things.
I'll tell you, everything that I know about media, and I've been through media trainings and all of this stuff, but everything that I know of importance was taught to me, and maybe she's listening this morning, by a local journalist. Her used to write for the LA Times. Her name is Jocelyn Stewart. Incredible journalist. And she taught me everything that I needed to know about being black, being woman, being a journalist, and getting your stories covered in the ways in which your people need that coverage. And so I take my hat off to you, Dominique, for being able to stay in this business.
I need to sit down with Miss Stewart and pick her brain up. Yeah.
100%.
Well, we're talking with Pete White, and I want to address some of those prickly issues before we go. The rules when we come forward, it's talking about the rules from these shelters, and is that fair? Does it make sense? I want to talk about this now pushback, not just from Republicans, but from some others, on the landscape about the rights of the people that aren't unhoused, that live in communities and share those parks and spaces. We've talked about this before,
right. Yep.
but it seems like the volume's gotten turned up on that conversation.
That's right.
Continue with those and other prickly issues around houselessness, and how do we solve this crisis? That's next. KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Shop end-of-season deals during the Truckload event at Lowe's. Right now, save on major appliances and get an additional 10% off in-store clearance appliances. Plus, take up to 70% off select vanities, like the Allen & Roth Vanity Combo. Was $1,399, now $409. Get great deals now. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 7/19. Exclusions apply. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
She's so smooth, I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
In our community, mental health struggles can sometimes go unnoticed. The suicide rate among Black youth has risen faster than any other ethnic group. Only 1 in 3 African Americans who need mental health care receives it. African American women are only half as likely as their Caucasian counterparts to seek professional mental health services. Even those who guide us spiritually can sometimes face their own challenges. 45% of pastors say they've experienced depression or burnout to the extent they need to take a leave of absence from ministry. As people of faith, it's time to acknowledge it's okay not to be okay. You can pray and get help. Visit normalizehelp.org for more information and resources. Join us in raising mental health awareness in our community. Funded by the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health and the Champion Counseling Center of Faithful Central Bible Church.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Okay, with Dominique DePrima and Pete White, Community Action Network at KBLA 1580 at LA Can Network. Please follow, like, subscribe. That helps us build power, build our mailing lists, our resources. So, Pete White, talk to me about these rules. I hear this a lot from unhoused folks who call in and who I talk to in the field. It's, you got to be in by 7. You can't smoke. You can't have a friend. Now, if I'm a grown person, don't let me cuss.
I saw it coming.
And part of home means I should be able to have people over, smoke a cigarette, have a drink. I mean, I'm not condoning alcoholism and cigarette use among the unhoused, but is that fair?
No, it's not fair. And our rules, Dominique, our rules aren't created equal. And we actually just changed some of that through our work at LA Can. And so a lot of these rules that they have on folks, rules like curfews, right? You have to be in by a certain hour. They also have something called safety checks. These safety checks were like women are actually in their room in these motels, and folks will knock on your door and just enter your room, right?
Hell
that
no.
That is not who's safe in that situation, not the person, right? And so, but on the West Side, in these programs for white folks, those rules didn't exist, right? And
Are you kidding me right now?
I am not kidding you right now, right? And so we, of course, with this new mayor, we, of course, immediately said, wait a second. there's definitely not going to be second-class treatment for black folks in the Grand Hotel if it's not happening and it shouldn't happen for white folks and others.
Right.
On the
No,
west
I'm
side.
not saying police the white people,
Right.
but I'm saying what the
100%.
double standard raises its ugly head again. To me, that sounded more like jail than housing.
No, it is. That's what we call carceral shelter. And if we're really talking about helping people, give folks that house key, right?
Yeah.
Let folks go about their business. Now, since they've removed the curfews, since they've removed all of these restrictive carceral tactics, people are continuing to grow. People are continuing to look for that solution, and that being permanent housing. And that's the thing that we're still searching for.
Let's go to Carl calling us from LA. Good morning, Carl.
Hey, good morning, Dominique. Good morning, P. White.
Good morning,
Hey, you
Carl.
know what, Dominique? Hey, I'm trying to boycott this Spectrum TV service, man. They running my bill up like it's crazy. I done pulled $100 out of my pocket yesterday.
Okay,
and
well,
my
I'm
bill
sorry to
still
hear.
keeps going crazy.
I'm sorry to hear
Hey,
that.
look.
You might have to unplug.
Yeah, I'm have
Go to streaming
Hey,
like I did. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, look, Dominique, they cleaned up Seattle a couple of weeks ago for that superstar baseball game. The All-Star game moved all the homeless people around town and had the All-Star game down there. I even seen the people that came, caught the bus down here to L.A. talking about L.A. is love now. They here to stay. They came all the way from Seattle. Hey, you don't think that this is a job situation? Like, I'm still looking for some employment. I looked up on some housing myself, thank God.
Finally, though, Carl, you were looking for housing for
Yeah.
years. I mean, we've been talking about it for
Oh, my
years, and you
goodness.
finally got housed. So congratulations to you. Now you need a job. You got advice
yeah,
for
now I need a
Carl?
job.
Hey, Carl, I got a question for Carl. Carl feels like a extra panelist on the show this morning. While you were looking for housing, was there ever a day that you said, I don't want housing? And what motivated that, if that was in fact the case?
Well, I was motivated to get housing. That was one of the cases. I stayed down the street at the Mayfair Hotel on 7th and Whitmore, and I went through so much mess just to get me a voucher up in there. I hung in there though,
That's right.
because they was trying to terminate people to get them out of there and not give them a voucher.
That's right.
But I stuck with it because I really, really needed to get myself some housing. So now I am looking for some employment. And them rules they got, they pushed them rules up on people, and man, it's like, wow. But anyway, I stuck to it.
That's right. That's right. I'll say this to the listeners and to you too, Carl. A couple of years ago, in the county of Los Angeles, 50% of the folks who were struggling with houselessness left houselessness on their own. No assistance from the government, no assistance. Right. And it was because their economic situation changed. So a lot of people fall in, rent is high in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You're not affording rent with one job, right? And so a lot of people are working 2 and 3 jobs. And if they lose one job, that oftentimes ends in houselessness. And what LA County found is that if folks are just given that assistance, and they're still pushing back against it, a little assistance to either stay in their housing or to keep them housed, inflow is controlled. And so, Carl, 100%, we need more employment. We need employment connected to jobs, and we're going to be all right.
So for someone like Carl that's looking for a job, I mean, we hear from the mayor there's all these good jobs in City Hall. And we hear from employers that they can't find employees. And then Carl tells me he can't find work.
One of the things that the mayor found when she got into office, I was talking to her one day, and she was like, Pete, there's like 700 public works jobs that have just been sitting there for years, right? And the other thing that she found out that I didn't know and that she didn't know, but I never knew this either, is that those entry exams that they use to get you into these city government jobs. And this becomes important because we think about Mayor Tom Bradley. One of his claims to fame was bringing black folks into government jobs. Right. That entry examination is not even necessary. Like, you don't have to get into the job by passing or failing that entry examination. You can have a direct interview. And so things like that, that's only 700 jobs. But that's 700.
But those are pretty
great
good jobs.
paying
Yeah.
That can
So
keep you housed.
how do we help Carl? Like Carl, where should Carl go? I mean, I know you said
Because
you were down at construction sites, and have you gone to the Black Worker Center yet? The LA Black Worker Center on Crenshaw.
Yeah, I've been to quite a few places.
No, I'm talking
trying
about
to get
specifically
past-
them though, because they have a worker registry.
I'm trying to get to somebody that I can finally get a interview. I'm having problems with even getting an interview with somebody.
I get it. I'm going to keep reminding you about the LA Black Worker Center though, because they do have a registry and they have the Ready for Work class. I think if you go through that workshop, they do connect you with some interviews, so that might be worth trying.
Carl, last thing, just for you. What's your background?
Construction, plumbing, janitorial, custodial, environmental service. A little bit of everything.
All things is necessary. I would say too, go over to the Black Worker Center because they're focused on Black folks. I would also say if you on social media, Carl, your voice sound familiar. Hit us up on social media or call me direct 213-228-0024. Let's talk about this offline. 213-228-0024. Thank you, Carl.
All right. I'm glad you called in. It's great to hear from you. So back to the prickly.
They're prickly. So Carl brought up a couple things, though, right?
Yeah,
Carl
a lot of good things.
Carl brought up Seattle. He brought up the sweeps, right? There's been a lot of attention focused on Seattle because there's this idea that we can have sanctioned camping, right? So these are places where houseless people can actually camp at. Now, it becomes really dangerous when you have this conversation about sanctioned camping because it sounds like, yes, well, that's a place houseless people can go if they want to. What that becomes is a nexus to criminalization because what it says is for the sanctioned camping, you can't be anywhere but there. You can only be in that place no matter where that place is. And that place is going to be governed in a police style manner. And so I'm really concerned about this
permanent houseless encampments that are controlled environments
because
that
the
are
other
now
thing that happens, Dominique,
pseudo jails.
This is true. This is it. But the other thing that happens is the temporary is expensive and it becomes a permanent.
Well, yeah, I mean, we saw that in South Africa. We went to the informal, basically a shanty town that was set up by Winnie Mandela when apartheid fell, because those folks were supposed to have permanent housing built, and they're still living there now. They're highly organized. It's spotlessly clean. They have an African collective mindset, so it's not the kind of misery and squalor that we see here. But still, it's not where you want to live.
And the workers, and some of the workers of those collectives have been here as well. Hundreds of thousands of people live in this shanty town. This is not what we're trying to replicate.
Yeah, we don't need to. But I mean, no disrespect to them.
No. 100%.
Okay, so unless I'm going to keep you here all day, we just have about 3 minutes. Talk to me about this push by Republican lawmakers and judges, but also some who aren't Republicans. I mean, I've had my own thoughts about how do we make sure the community that is housed gets to use that park and it doesn't turn into just an encampment. People are mad at me because I actually support the fence around Lemert Park. I don't think Lemert Park should turn into a permanent encampment. Sorry, we need it for vendors, we need it for protests, we need it for people to play.
Yeah, I mean, so two things in sort of like this is our speed dating round, y'all. And so a couple of things here. And so public space has to remain as public space. 100%. I believe that if we don't want to if our parks aren't used to accommodate houseless folks, there needs to be situations set up that can.
That are not what we just talked about.
That are not what we just talked about, right? That are not carceral containment zones, right? This is where I believe like city-owned property, and we own a lot of it, and government-owned property becomes useful, right? So if we're not using it for housing right now, let's use it for the good of community. Right.
I mean, you're talking about letting people camp there?
I'm talking about
having showers and bathrooms.
I'm talking about services, showers and bathrooms. I'm talking about just basic, decent humanity. But I also say that knowing that there's a risk that doing anything like that temporarily becomes the permanent. and that the resources that it takes to operate those types of situations should go to housing. But if we don't want folks in parks, and if we don't want folks in the public right of way in which we're talking, well, we better have some housing for folks, or we better have places.
Right, because this idea that you don't have a right to sleep on the street is equally problematic.
That's right.
Then we're saying what? Cease to exist? I mean,
That's
people can't just disappear.
You can't disappear people, right? You cannot disappear people. And so I think it's just a tricky road that we traipse down when we start, when we're about segregation.
I mean, yeah, like San Diego. Okay, it's illegal to sleep on the sidewalk if you've been offered housing. But the reality of most of those situations is what you just said. The housing isn't there.
It does not exist.
So then that's unconscionable.
That's right. I think I may have just talked you backwards on your point, on your prickly point.
Well, no, I think I see both sides of that. It's not even really both sides. It's that we need to immediately build this housing.
Right.
There's just no other solution. Everything else is a Band-Aid to a bullet wound.
That's right. A Band-Aid to a bullet wound. And the temporary is incredibly expensive, right? And so, and this is one of the fears that I have with some of the current plans with the mayor. The mayor knows that at the end of the program, if the money runs out, people return right to houselessness.
Talking with Pete White. Thank you so much for staying.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news on my way out, Dominic.
No, but it's good news, too, because it means we have to step up right now. If there's ever an opportunity to heal our city, it is right freaking now.
Right now. Thank you so much for having me. It's been far too long. Thank you, KBLA 1580, for existing. I'll be back, y'all.
Thank you. News, traffic, and sports now.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Maryland, Baltimore African-American Mayor Brandon Scott has announced plans by the city to launch an initiative to combat the city's growing vacant home problem. The mayor made the announcement yesterday. He says the city is partnering with local groups to set up a steering committee to raise $7.5 billion to invest in vacant properties. A former movie studio head predicts disaster if the actors and writers' strikes aren't settled soon. Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, IAC and Expedia chair Barry Diller suggests a September 1st settlement deadline similar to a strike deadline. Diller says the biggest obstacle is there is no trust between the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, which represents the studios and the actors and writers unions. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. If you're like many people, you may think custom blinds is a job for expensive professionals. Well, at Blindster, if you have a tape measure and a screwdriver, you can install our custom blinds and save big. Plus, we guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
This could be a monumental week for Magic Johnson. On Thursday, there's a very strong probability that Magic will become a part owner of the Washington Commanders. The NFL's 30 owners have scheduled a special league meeting for Thursday in Minneapolis. The main agenda item is expected to be a vote to formally approve the sale of the Commanders to billionaire Josh Harris. Magic is part of the Harris Group. Outgoing Commanders owner Dan Snyder agreed to sell the franchise to Harris's group for $6.05 billion, the highest price tag in NFL history for a franchise. Magic is on the doorstep of his first NFL ownership. The NFL training camp countdown continues. The Chargers open up July 26th in Costa Mesa. First day of camp for the Rams is July 29th at UC Irvine. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
KBLA Talk 1580 is celebrating its second year anniversary, but you ain't seen nothing yet.
Always bet on black and black.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for education as a right, not a privilege. Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science is a private, non-profit, community-founded, student-centered university committed to cultivating diverse health profession leaders who are dedicated to social justice and health equity for underserved populations. CDU does this through outstanding education, clinical service, and community engagement. Recently, Charles Drew University made history by opening only the 5th medical school at an historically Black university. Congratulations, South LA, and congratulations to the Dean of the medical school, Dr. Deborah Protho-Stith. CDU is now training doctors and providing $90 million in annual economic benefit to Watts and surrounding neighborhoods. To apply for medical school, get more information, or sign your child up for the Junior Doctors Saturday School program, visit cdrewu.edu. That's cdrewu.edu. At KBLA, we are dedicated to equity in education and ending healthcare apartheid. And we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm James Alexander, a proud member of AARP. 1967, I was 17. That spring, my friends, the Barcades, and I made Soulfinger. It was a hit. Number 3 on the charts. That summer, we became the Great Otis Redding's Band. First gig, the famed Apollo. That fall, we toured. That winter found me in a morgue identifying the bodies of my bandmates and Otis Redding. My music and their memories bring me joy. The Barcades, forever.
What would you call a joy that is as solemn as it is sweet and knows no bounds? A joy that's beautifully rooted in soul and resilience. This is Black joy, a joy that reflects pride and honor despite every challenge. AARP believes the power of Black joy is limitless, and we celebrate this joy supreme. Join us in celebrating Black joy at aarp.org/blackcommunity.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
And you're always welcome here, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. That's the number if you want to join the conversation. Going to Derek, calling from Colorado. Good morning, Derek.
Yeah, how you doing, Dominique? I just want to make some statements, comments, and questions. And I just want to ask you a question. Have they ever? Are you guys able to do like a community land trust on California or anything else like that?
Yeah, there's several of them. Yeah, there's several of them that are in motion here, in action here. Community land trust. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is that a big thing in Colorado?
Yeah, this has some that people are able to purchase land. It depends on what part. And then some. And then they're talking about the tiny house movement, and they're talking about building some tiny homes. Somebody says people don't want to live in tiny homes because they said they're too small, they can't entertain. And they said But they said they'll be affordable or something like that. They said they start around 250 square feet. Sometimes they go up to 400 square feet.
Yeah.
They're trying those alternatives.
Right. Yeah.
And,
Tiny
then they
houses
also-
have been big here for a while too, and I think that it feels like a temporary solution. I like the tiny home TV show. I watch it, but those are like tiny mansions, and the reality, most tiny homes is more like a shack. But I do think that there's a movement away from that, because if you think about it, Derek, that is like a manifestation of predatory capitalism, right? The rich people live in gigantic homes, and the more poor you get, the more your walls close in on you. I don't know. Why can't we have a society where low-income people can have regular homes?
No, they said what they're trying to do is that people want to be housed.
Right.
And they said the land they said somebody was telling me that land costs all throughout the whole country are land is somebody was telling me that this guy from I'll speed it up. This guy was from Texas.
Take a deep breath. You got time, Derek.
Okay, this guy was from Texas. He came up here and he was telling people that hey, black people, you need to buy land. And I said land. He was from Texas, and he says in the South all the black people own land. I don't know. I'm not from the South. But he was saying, they were saying other things, that land costs in the South are very inexpensive.
Right, for now.
And he says, he says for now, when you go to Georgia, Mississippi,
but Georgia's changing, Derek. I got friends there, and what used to be super
That's
cheap
around Atlanta.
Yeah, right. You're right. When you go out to the country, it goes down. I also think that, it's important for us to have land and buy land. But this excuse about land is expensive, housing is expensive, and so therefore the poor have to live in shacks, I just don't agree with it. I mean, we've got all these empty luxury apartments. We've got unused malls because people are shopping online. Office buildings sitting fallow because folks are working from home. Why not convert those to housing, Derek?
Yeah, let me tell you, they tried that, I think in downtown Denver with some of those residential things, but he said depending the way they are built for, he says when you have an office tower in downtown areas designed basically for offices, but he says you got to spend a whole bunch
this
of
guy
money,
is full
but
of
he says
excuses, isn't he?
He says a lot of times they can't. He says the way they're designed, sometimes they can.
Okay,
work
I call
what
BS because with a good architect, a good design, they can be remodeled. You can remodel anything. This guy, I don't know who you're talking about, but he's got excuses for everything. Put the poor in tiny houses. We can't remodel office buildings. That's just not the truth. Just because we haven't done it in the past doesn't mean we can't do it now. There's already plumbing there. There's already electricity. Maybe we need to rethink what we mean by an apartment, especially when we talk about seniors. Maybe we need to revisit the idea of communal housing, where you have more like the old school boarding houses where people have a room and a communal kitchen, or maybe a couple of communal kitchens. I saw that a lot in Africa, Derek.
Okay, and he says another thing on these tiny homes.
Who is he?
The tiny homes they're building here are going to be building, they'll have their own bathroom, their own kitchen.
Many do.
So people do want their privacy. Somebody says, something, somebody's telling me, the people may be homeless, but people do have their own human dignity. They do want privacy.
That is true.
And they don't want to be sharing. They do want to have their own privacy. They want their human beings.
Well, yeah, but of course everybody's situation is different. If you're talking about a bunch of seniors, which the data are showing us are ending up on the streets at an increasing rate, and many of those have disabilities, for someone like that, a communal space, a shared kitchen with a private room that has a lock on the door may be preferable to a tiny home by yourself in the middle of nowhere. For someone like me, if I have to choose between communal living and a tiny home, I'd probably pick the tiny home because I like to, have privacy. But I just feel like there's a philosophical issue with this idea that the poorer you are, the smaller your home has to be. Let's go to Morris calling us from Inglewood. Hi, Morris.
Hey, you know what, Dominique? you did it again. Dominique, you did it. You stole all my thunder. I got my little list of things I
I'm
was going
sorry,
to say.
Morris.
And before I could get to it, she jumped all on. We don't have to build no new stuff. We got all these brick and mortar places shutting down, shopping malls shutting down. We already got parking. We already got plumbing. It's conversion time. China built 20,000 houses in 3 weeks. Chinese, they're really tough. We can put RV trailers up. We can get people off the streets if we want to. The government owns a lot of property. It's conversion time. And with these climate emergencies being what they are, we're going to have even more people being homeless. So it's about our spirit. We get our spirit right, Dominique, we're going to be okay. And stop stealing my stuff. I'll talk to you later.
Sorry, Morris, but I'm not going to stop. But you know what? That's a good point. We will see folks being unhoused because of the climate emergency. It also brings to mind this idea of recycle, reuse, repurpose, even if it means a whole office building, because right now the supplies that we need are not always readily available, and they become more and more expensive, things like wood and steel and things that you need to build these structures. So if there's already a structure and you can repurpose it without reinventing the wheel and utilizing, all of those fresh resources, there's definitely advantages to that. Going to Jamal from LA. Good morning, Jamal.
Oh, good morning. Good morning, everyone on the... I start to say something else from the old school for a different station. My goodness. Wow. But anyway, that's okay. This is KBLA, a radio station, and I enjoy it every day. I'd just like to ask a question. I hear about the jobs and stuff. I'm not looking for a job. I'm a retired old person.
Congrats.
But, yeah, thank you. But oftentimes, they just ask, can you speak a second language? And I don't know why a lot of these community organizations that are out here, why aren't they teaching Spanish as a second language? It should be widespread. People need to understand Spanish, okay? Because it's becoming necessary for other jobs, They should be teaching all kind of languages, Of course, people are not going to community college to do it,
Well, although we could, you could go to community college.
Programs,
yeah, I hear you. Well, when China started requiring Mandarin, when Zimbabwe started requiring Mandarin Chinese in their colleges, that was a bit of a wake-up call, right? If you know Mandarin, if you know Arabic, if you know Spanish, you are more employable. That said, folks like the Black Workers Center and even from the mayor's office are starting to question whether it is a form of discrimination against black people to ask for that if it's not absolutely necessary for the job, right, as a way of screening us out. So I agree with you. We should learn. In Africa, black people know 3, 4, 5, 6 languages as a matter of course. At the same time, that shouldn't be an obstacle to employment if you don't know Spanish.
Well, it is in the city of LA when they have these jobs and they make that as a requirement. One more other thing. I was on a list for housing. I'm still on the list. It's been over 15 years to get into senior housing. But I got into senior housing under another because I was on a different list also. But I think also when you're taking people off the street, if they're not used to living in housing to begin with, they need to be given some counseling in regards to how you're supposed to, interact. Because that's very important. Because you got people moving in and
okay, hold that thought, Jamal. I think that's what they mean by permanent supportive services. But I'd love to let you finish your point when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Hollywood Walk of Fame stars in 2024. Stay tuned to find out who's in next year's class. I'm Aisha Cairo with your K-Black Minute News. A new group of 31 entertainment professionals across film, television, radio, recording, and sports entertainment will have their names etched into Hollywood's history in 2024. One of the most celebrated names on the list was the beloved Chadwick Boseman. Others for the class of 2024 in Hollywood Walk of Fame was this year's Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh.
Mateo in the motion picture category. Other notable names include Chris Pine, Gwen Stefani, Andre, Dr. Dre, Young, Otis Redding, Christina Ricci, Brandy Norwood, Harry Washington, and more. The dates for the star ceremonies have not yet been scheduled. To find out all 31 inductees, visit youtube.com/Walk of Fame. Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Whether financing is needed to increase working capital, acquire a business, purchase inventory and equipment, or refinance debt, Lendistry has a solution for you. Lending products range from traditional business term loans and non-revolving lines of credit to SBA 7A loans and commercial real estate financing. Lendistry's pre-application process is simple and does not impact your credit score. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more and to get started with an application right from the website.
I'm James Alexander, a proud member of AARP. 1967, I was 17. That spring, my friends, the Barcades, and I made Soulfinger. It was a hit. Number 3 on the charts. That summer, we became the great Otis Redding's band. First gig, the famed Apollo. That fall, we toured. That winter found me in a morgue identifying the bodies of my bandmates and Otis Redding. My music and their memories bring me joy. The Barcades, forever.
What would you call a joy that is as solemn as it is sweet and knows no bounds? A joy that's beautifully rooted in soul and resilience. This is Black joy, a joy that reflects pride and honor despite every challenge. AARP believes the power of Black joy is limitless, and we celebrate this joy supreme. Join us in celebrating Black joy at aarp.org/Black community.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
We started off the morning celebrating 10 years of Black Lives Matter. The Black Lives Matter People's Justice Festival was a huge success. Pete White joined us, and we got off talking about LA Community Action Network's mission of housing, affordability, and that human right of shelter and well-being. Jamal, you were talking about your journey as a retired person and, you know, how to find that good job and maybe considering another language, learning another language. Actually, Duolingo, the app, is pretty effective. I would throw that out there. I'm starting to work on learning French. But you also said, huh?
I'm sorry, you know, that's good, but these people out here that are looking for work, you know.
Absolutely.
They need, you know, you said it's a form of discrimination. I definitely, but I've seen it for years. And these jobs, you said you got to have English, but English,
right. So what I was saying about that, Jamal, is that if it's not absolutely necessary for that job, there are some folks that are pushing back and saying, well, no, you don't have, you know, that can be a discrimination piece. And so you have to ask, is it absolutely necessary for the job? Because they may not be able to eliminate you with that. That's all I was saying.
Well, listen, you can go places in public offices somewhere, and you can, you know, speak to people or call, and it's you'd be surprised that they don't even know English well, but they got the job.
Yeah, well, that's that's the other side of that coin. But when we landed, you were talking about getting senior housing, and you said you were on one list, and you've been on that list for 15 years. So in other words, we need to sign up for senior housing when we're in our 30s if we want to get it by the time we're seniors.
It's crazy. It is really crazy. I mean, I guess because they don't have enough units out there.
Right.
Okay?
And then you said you were on, but you said you got housing because you were on 2 lists. So is your advice get on as many lists as possible?
Yes, I would advise get on as many lists as possible. The thing is, people don't have computer skills to go online and really look at and see where all these places are, you go to the Los Angeles Housing Department. They have a website. You register. You get on there, and you fill the things out, and you'll get emails every so often about, you can always also go in and look and see where places are being built at, because it's not general knowledge.
So what are these lists that you are on, Jamal?
I had registered with the Los Angeles Housing Department, and I got on a couple of lists. And when you go in there, you look and you see houses are being built or they're not built yet, and you get on these lists. And then there's times the list open up for housing for low income.
I see. Okay, well that's great advice. Thank you for sharing it with us this morning, Jamal.
So let me tell you something that I just got in the mail. This doesn't affect me, but recently the Los Angeles Superior Court rules that the LADWP no longer will be charging the lifeline discount to low income people as a result of this particular case.
I'm not familiar with that. We'll have to check in with our friends at DWP. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be signs that your digestive system isn't working at its best? But taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil supports your daily digestive health using a special plant-based fiber called psyllium. Psyllium works by forming a gel in your digestive system to trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Metamucil's gelling action also helps to promote heart health and slows down sugar absorption to promote healthy blood sugar levels. Start feeling lighter and more energetic by taking Metamucil every day.
To my hometown, my community. Some of you have known me my whole life. Do you notice anything different about the kids in the neighborhood? Ever paid attention? You might start with gifts, money, attention. These are signs. Child trafficking is happening right here in this town. So don't just watch through the window. Pay attention. Because the more we know, the more we'll all know to say no. Learn the signs to look for and how to help at no-to-say-no.com.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like your style, though.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
And where you're always invited in, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. We started off our week with a lively conversation about housing, houselessness, jobs, and all the things we need to sustain and grow and to not be erased, particularly as black people in the city and county of Los Angeles. Going to Velvet from L.A. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, I wanted to talk about the housing issues and some of the things that the last caller spoke about seniors not being able to use a computer. And it's a lot deeper than that because the credit bureaus have a lot to do with this crisis we're having. I don't know if they're redlining. I don't know what's really going on. But I know that when people try to get an apartment, whatever the California Rentals Association does, we need to dip into how people are scrutinized for apartments as well. And I think the tiny housing is like a waste. I think it's a way for developers to hold on to a property and put some little specs on it. And then when it's time to redevelop it and make more money off of it, they can go back and tear the tiny houses down.
Interesting.
And then with the, I was in Seattle. And Seattle, all the properties, like the major buildings downtown, have shelters underneath them. And the churches are not just open on Sunday; they actually house homeless people on during the weekday. And so we have a lot of resources that are just sitting there in our face, and we have to have more people that are compassionate about the situation and to start opening up doors. A lot of these landlords, I know the California Apartment Association is angry because if you go to court and you don't have a lawyer, you're going to lose in an eviction case. So it's so many things that's causing the homeless crisis that's why it's so bad. And I left. I got tired of it because, I'm 60 years old. Why do I need to be able to buy me a house, be able to...
So when you say you left, where did you go?
I'm in Arkansas.
Okay, all right. Is
And
it
it's
better
green
there?
and clean.
Is it better there?
Yes, in a lot of ways. And I think that we need to branch out if we really want to take more power and control to places where we can afford to live. And then we can also change things here as well.
Yeah, well, I know there's an exodus happening right now. A lot of people from New York, and especially New York, but other big cities, black people going back to the South.
And I'm loving it.
Well, I'm glad it's working for you, Velvet. I myself would like to remain in Los Angeles, but I can definitely see the argument for going where your dollar stretches a little longer, especially if you're retired or you have the type of job that you can do from anywhere in the world. And I agree with you so much about controlling the way that we are screened out of properties and the way that people are being exploited, whether it's excessive fees to apply for an apartment or just being forced to apply for apartments that aren't even really available. We're going to be talking with Judge Maybelline Ephraim when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore here on CBS's Face the Nation. IAC and Expedia Chair Barry Diller suggests a September 1st settlement deadline similar to a strike deadline